Hi everyone, and welcome to our channel. This is a new series of videos focusing on the human anatomy, specifically the face. Over the years, I've been asked many times to create 3D models based upon a picture of a face. It's rather challenging, but I thought I would share a few tips with you in case you ever wanted to try it. One of the first things to know about the face is that there are certain proportions to start with. There's no absolute rule. There's no definite only this can work. But here's a few ideas on how you can create a good-looking face. According to Leonardo da Vinci, the distance between the eyes must be equal to the width of one eye, and the width of the nose must be the same as that one eye dimension. The distance between the corners of the mouth should be equal to the distance between the irises of the eye, so your iris and edge of your mouth line up. The bottom of the earlobes should be in line with the tip of the nose. And the top of the ears must touch an imaginary line drawn along the eyebrows. A line drawn through the pupils of the eyes should have an imaginary vertical line connecting the tip of the chin and the crown of the head. So, according to Da Vinci, the ideal head, if all of these were held consistent and correct, would be an oval face. We know that there are many different shapes and sizes and configurations of these measurements for people's faces. That's what makes us different. But at least this is a starting point. In this series, I'm going to be dealing just with the lips. I thought it would be a good place to start. It's probably one of the easier components to make. And we'll break down the face into individual parts. Lips are unique. They are the fleshy parts or folds forming the edge of the mouth, and they act with our ability to speak. Typically, women's lips are a little fuller and rounder. Men's lips happen to be, in many cases, thinner, but not always. That's what makes us different. So there's no set rules. It's just a starting point for an idea of how to create and deal with lips. If you can see in these pictures some of the vectors that you may need to create lips, you're one step ahead. So let's take a look to see how I create lips. I set up my job as I would normally, and making sure the job setup fits the size of the lips. I want to utilize as many pixels as possible. I then create a circle, no specific size, because we know that we can adjust the size of these lips once completed. But I want to make sure that they fit within our workspace. I take my top circle and mirror it to the bottom underneath it and move it slightly over to the left. I'll take that circle, that second circle, and mirror it to the left as well. So I have two circles on the left. I want to create two additional circles, except on the right-hand side of our vertical. That's the basic shape and dimensions of our lips. From our left-hand corner, I'm going to draw an arc. No secret numbers here, no secret absolutes of how it should be done. This vector is going to create our center of the mouth. Move my right-hand side node up ever so slightly. And I'm going to add a small little curvature on the left-hand side. That's where the end of the mouth is. Joining those two vectors together, I'm going to mirror them to the right-hand side. I could have used the Shift-Control-H method as well. I select both those vectors and join them with a curved line. That becomes our center vector of the mouth. Now to create the top and bottom vector. A simple arc from one edge of the mouth to the other edge of the mouth. How high should this arc be? Your choice. You can see the end results affect dramatically how the mouth looks. I'm going to go to the very top of our first circle. That's my top lip. I then need to create my bottom lip by adding another curved arc, and again adjusting it as need be. I have my bottom vector, my center vector, and my top vector. I'm going to move them to a new layer simply because I'd like to have everything clean and clear and not be distracted by those circles that I've created. And of course, change the color so it's a little bit more visible and I know what I'm working with. In many cases, people will take the two vectors and join them together and simply create a component from them. That sort of works, but it's not the approach I'd like to take in this case. So I unjoin them together and I have my original three vectors. Now I need to create a profile because I'm going to be using the two-rail sweep to generate the components for my lip. Hovering over the curvature, I hit the B key and that converts it to a Bezier span, and I can adjust the direction or profile of the lip. Choose my upper vector and my center vector. Those will be the rails. We know when using the two-rail sweep, the profile will be looked at from left to right. So depending upon which vector you've chosen as the rail, the order in which they're chosen, the end result may be different. So I'd like to have the lower part of my profile to be, in this case, the upper part of the lip as well as the bottom part of the lip. You can see by the grayer area, the darker gray area would be the lower part, and the taller, brighter area would be the thicker part of the lip. So that's a start, but it's not quite right. There's something missing. We can make a copy of our visible 3D model. With that selected, go into the sculpting tool. And here's a few little tricks that I've learned over the years. The smoothing tool works out well if you, in this case, uncheck the preserve transparency and smooth out between the lips. That will ensure if there's any space between the lips, it gets filled in. Where to smooth and how much to smooth is your choice. But the one thing that people forget about is the center of the top lip. There's a slight indent. It's called the Cupid's bow. You can see it here in this image. Do all lips have it? In most cases. Not always, there's nothing absolute. But in most cases, this little area of an indent will help make a difference. I purposely keep the preserve transparency turned off so that I can smooth off the edges, especially the ends of the mouth. And it looks more natural. We're going to keep that and hit OK. You could see the excess material, the excess parts of the component that were created in our sculpting procedure. And now I'd like to get rid of those. Simply clicking on that component, going into our component properties and just lowering the base height a little bit. That excess material will be below our Z0 plane. Which we can then delete by using the Replace Below option. That's a quick and easy way to trim the excess material. There's our set of lips. Let's try it one more time. I'm going to delete my copy and take a look at my top lip and my bottom lip. I'm going to delete my bottom lip because I think my top lip will work. But I'm going to choose a different operation, a different style. I click on my original profile and I make a copy of it. Move it down. I then would go into my node edit mode and adjust. I can add nodes or simply adjust the Bezier curves so it creates a second shape. One for the upper lip and one for the bottom lip. Or I can use this new shape for both lips. Select my bottom rail, then my center rail. Select this new shape. The thinner part will be at the bottom of our lip, and the thicker part of the profile will be in the center of the mouth. And you can see, if you would compare it to our original mouth, this is slightly different. This is part of the lesson that you'll need to learn. How to look at the image of the mouth and determine what the profile would be. I delete my upper lip, choose my two vectors, and I'm going to use that same profile again. Remember, the darker the gray of the pixels, the lower it is in the Z height. Another variation. Change the component property to merge and make a copy of it. Selecting that new copy of the 3D model back into the Sculpting tab. Uncheck the Preserve Transparency, so again it fills in whatever blank area or void that there may be in the center of the mouth. Where and how much sculpting should you do? It's your choice. Let's try it one more time. We're going to adjust this profile ever so slightly. What's the correct profile? Only you can tell, based upon the picture that you have. I'm making this up as I go along. In this case, I want the profile to stand a little taller in the Z height, to protrude out a little. I choose my upper rail and my center rail for my 2-rail sweep, and I choose this new profile to create a shape. For my bottom lip, I choose my bottom rail and my center rail, and I choose that same profile. Because the software reads the profile from left to right, it will mean that the center of the lips will be higher in the Z than the outer edges of the lips. Just a different approach, just a different look. Make a component of that 3D model and go back into the sculpting tab. Smooth as needed. And don't forget to create the Cupid's bow. There's not a lot of sculpting that's required, just a little bit. The ends of the mouth, because I'm going to need to have it blend in with the rest of the face eventually. Click on that new component, reduce the base height because I want to eliminate that excess material. I bake it. And then choose the Replace Below icon. And there's our lips. A hard process? Not really. But it may be if you really need to do something that looks accurate. Here's a picture of some lips, and possibly you can see what vectors would be needed. I have 4 vectors, 2 for the upper lip and 2 for the bottom lip. My upper lip, go back into my 2-rail sweep. I'm going to choose my first shape and hit apply. You can see the component was placed upon the incorrect layer, but that's okay. I just wanted to check to make sure it was possible. It looks okay, but it really doesn't look like the picture. So let's delete that and start over again. I'm going to choose my upper rail and then my center rail. I want this set of lips, the upper lip, to have a larger or more pronounced upper edge than the center of the mouth. So I need to reselect my vectors. I'm going to choose my center vector first, then my top vector as the rails, and then my profile, because the software is going to read that profile from left to right, and the first vector that I've chosen, the center, will be thinner in the Z, and the second vector, the top edge, will be higher. I'm going to do the same with the bottom lip. I choose my center vector, which I want thinner, and my bottom vector to be thicker because of the profile that I've chosen. And the end result looks like this. So choosing your vectors for the 2-rail sweep in the certain order will create different looks. So let's try this one more time. I choose my bottom vector and my center vector as my rails. I'm going to choose my first profile. The order I've chosen the rails will indicate that my center of my mouth will be higher than the outer edge of my lip. You may need to tilt or fade your lips to get the end result that you're looking for. In this case, I'm going to tilt from the top to the center. And tilt is always in the up direction. I can adjust the positioning of these components, moving the top lip down just a bit. Making a copy of the visible model and going into the sculpting tool, just like I've done previously. I just want to smooth it ever so slightly, so turning down the strength helps. I can always increase it if I need to. Since I already have my Cupid's bow, I don't really need to do too much. I just want to soften the edges ever so slightly. Adjusting the base height down, baking it, and using the Replace Below option to get rid of that excess material is a common practice that I use. So that's one variation. But let's try it one more time. I'm going to see how the lips are actually shaped. The bottom lip is more rounded than the upper lip. So let's hide the picture. We're going to adjust our first upper lip, clicking on the center vector, then the top vector, those will be the rails, and using our top shape, the one with that sharp edge, and hit apply. For the bottom lip, I'd like it to be more rounded, so I'm going to use my second profile shape. Click on my outer vector and then my center vector as the rails, and use the profile that I've created. Now my bottom lip is more rounded than the top lip. And I'm comfortable with that, because I think that's what it looks like in the picture. I'm going to select my image and create a component from that image, from that bitmap. I call this the skin. It's a little too rough, too ragged, so I'm going to select it and choose the component properties to just adjust the shape height, just to smooth it out a little bit. It looks okay, but I'm going to need to take it into the sculpting tool just to smooth it out a little bit more. So I make a copy of the visible model using that model. Click on the sculpting icon and smooth as needed. Just a note, in most cases there will be a flatter or less textured area where the sun is shining or the light is shining off the lips. You may want to consider that as you're doing your smoothing. Where's the light source coming from? And where's the light bouncing off? I don't need to do a lot of smoothing or sculpting, as we have our good shapes underneath and our skin texture on top works out pretty well. Once we're happy, we'll keep it and hit OK. Now to get rid of the excess material, I can try to use my reduce the base height option or process that I've done before, but because of the shape and configuration of this component, it's not going to work. Too much will be deleted. So here's another approach of how you could eliminate what you don't need. I'm going to take my upper vector and my lower vector and join them together. I can join them together at a common point or with a curve, clicking twice to make a closed vector. With that closed vector selected, I click on my component and keep everything inside of it, or I delete everything outside of it. And there's the end result. It's not too complicated. Just a couple 2-rail sweeps and some skin on top. With my model selected, I can go in and change the color if I'd like, just to see how close I can get to the original picture. First start off with some bright red. And maneuver the component around to take a look at it from different angles. I also add a bit of shadow shading just so that I can see it a little bit better. And I'm pretty happy with it. But let's compare to the original image. I can hide the component in the 3D view by unchecking it, but really what I want to do is just have the image and our component visible. So I turn off the layer and I can compare. We can see the color's not quite right, but I think the shape looks pretty good. I could have adjusted the bottom vector to eliminate that indent at the bottom center of the lip, but for what it's worth, I like what I see. And simply adjust the color. There's our lips. Let's try this again. Here's a short little story. A few years ago, I found this image on the internet of a face, and I thought I'd like to try to create a 3D model from this. When I showed it to a few people, I was told I can't make this face in the Aspire software. Well, I think this would be a great time to do some experimenting and see if we really can or not. I have my face, the image, and I create the vectors for the lips, just like I've done previously. I'm going to approach this face just like the other ones I plan on doing, piece by piece. Mouth, nose, eyes, ears, cheeks, etc. I have my vectors for my mouth, for my upper lip. Select the center vector and then the top vector and choose my profile. Change to merge and hit apply. That will be my top lip. Create a new component. The bottom vector, the center vector as my rails, and my rounded profile for my bottom lip. That's going to be the mouth that I use for that face that I'm going to try and create, just to see if I can do it. Create a copy of that visible model and export it as a 3D clip art. I've set up a folder so I can add all my body parts to it, and you can see I already have a set of lips there. So I'm going to replace it. And that's the first step in our face. I hope you can see what vectors may be needed when you're creating lips. Some more rounded, some flatter, but if you can start to envision what vectors need to be drawn, you're halfway there. I hope you've learned a little bit from this process of creating lips. You may want to try creating your own. Next up, the nose. This will be a new video coming out shortly. Like the lips, there's no absolute rule. It's only suggestions. They're all different, all slightly different shapes and different sizes, but there are some basic fundamentals that you need to understand. If you'd like to learn more about the software, subscribe. And make sure you hit the bell to be reminded of new videos when they come out. And as always, if you have any questions, send me an email, mm@mezalick.com. I hope you've learned a little bit and can see how you can create lips by simply using the 2-rail sweep. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Enjoy.